Hello, everyone. Welcome to another video. I'm recording from my apartment and in front of all of my good family and friends, or at least some pictures of them. Got a picture of my girlfriend and I, my twin brother and I, my two cats, Frank and Trevor. Trevor is sitting directly behind the camera right now, so if he makes an appearance, well, isn't that just great for everybody, right? But today is another video that I'm going to be making for you guys that actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with the running aspect of running, but pretty much the whole other side of the running lifestyle that will benefit your running and your training and also your racing. Three really important things that I really want to talk about today. One is the importance of sleep, and then we'll go into kind of diet related things, iron deficiencies, which are really, really common in endurance athletes, and then just overall diet, what the diet of a marathoner might look like. And I'll show you things that I usually eat during the day to try and benefit my running, right? All three really important things that don't actually have to do with running, but are definitely going to support your running in a lot of different ways. So let's dig right in, okay? I'm gonna be sharing my screen from my computer. I'll show you a few different articles and videos, and we'll get to this picture here in a minute, but I'm gonna minimize this, and I will show you the first little bit of information we wanted to go over, right? So this first little bit here I'd like to talk about is the importance of sleep, right? And there are really no secrets here, but obviously the more sleep that you're getting, the better. Obviously scientists generally recommend about 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. But for, endurance athletes and athletes in general, if you can get between 8 and 10 hours a night, you're going to be doing yourself quite a bit of favors, right? Now, this takes a lot of discipline. I think that's the toughest part of getting good sleep, is making sure that you're managing your time during your day so you can prioritize your sleep when the day is over. That means making sure all the work at work is getting done, you're home at a good time, you're able to take care of everything in the house that you might need to, or the apartment, and then you're getting to bed at a good time, at least getting yourself a good 8 hours of sleep each night. Now, the first paper that I wanted to show you, and I'm going to lean into the science side that I'm kind of into and show you the actual literature. And if you want to look these up for yourself, they're on the internet. You're more than welcome to do that. And I'll try and show you the paper title and the authors so you can look it up yourself. But the first thing that I want to tell you about getting good sleep has to do with, limiting your technology use up to the time that you're going to sleep, right? This study in particular showed that the use of any kind of electronic device, especially one with a bright screen, it could be your iPhone, your smartphone, your TV, a tablet of some sort, is actually going to decrease the amount of sleep that you're getting in terms of, minutes and hours, but also the quality of that sleep. You want to limit your use of anything that could be bright and kind of searing your eyes and also stimulating your brain right before you go to sleep, because it's going to prevent you from falling asleep. And then it's also going to limit, this study found, the quality of that sleep as well. Okay, so as you're going to sleep, if you can limit the use of your phone, a television, or a tablet, you should do that because it's going to help you fall asleep quicker. And it's also going to slow down those brain waves, right? So you can fall asleep faster and improve your quality of sleep, okay? Really, really important stuff. The other thing that I wanted to show you was just generally the role of sleep that it plays for us physiologically. Here's another paper for you that you can look up, and I'll show you the title so you can find it online if you would like. So this is called The Role of Sleep in Performance and Recovery of Athletes by Rachel Venter, right? And let me scroll back down here because this was the really interesting part of this paper that I really liked. This really interesting stat that shows that more than 95% of the daily production of hormones that are responsible for regrowing our muscles and rebuilding and repairing those muscles that we use, especially during exercise, 95% of them are produced during sleep. Right? So if you're not getting that sleep, your body is not producing the necessary hormones for our body to start rebuilding and recovering from whatever activity we had during the day. Amplifying the importance of that sleep. If you're getting good time of sleep and also good quality of sleep, you're going to boost the production of those hormones and also our body's ability to rebuild the muscles, which we might have broken down during a workout or a run during the day. Okay. Now, one other thing that this paper pointed out that I really, really enjoyed was the importance of sleep on your emotional well-being, right? Taking care of your mental health is just as important for elite athletes and athletes in general, right? And sleep is a really big part of that emotional well-being. This paper describes, how getting good sleep is actually going to improve your state of mind as you go throughout your workday and as you're going on your run. And especially if you can approach any of these really difficult tasks with a good mentality, it's going to improve your performance naturally, right? So getting good sleep is both important for the release of those hormones and also your emotional well-being, boosting your performance throughout the day at work and on your runs, okay? Sleep is really, really important, so make sure it's a priority, especially while you're training, okay? The next thing I wanted to talk about was the importance of iron in our bodies. One thing that's actually really common in endurance athletes and athletes especially, right, is an iron deficiency. Now, before we get into what an iron deficiency might look like, it's important to understand physiologically the role iron plays in our body, right? You've probably heard of red blood cells. Red blood cells are responsible for carrying oxygen to our muscles, right? And generally how this works is red blood cells have this protein called hemoglobin, and hemoglobin is what gives red blood cells in our blood its red color, actually, which is really interesting, right? And hemoglobin is what binds to oxygen. So these hemoglobin molecules, which are in the red blood cell, pick up oxygen in our lungs, right? And then it carries it all the way to our tissues, especially in our muscles where the oxygen content is really low. And it deposits that oxygen in those muscles, right? So hemoglobin, red blood cells, and oxygen all playing a very, very important role. Now, what this diagram doesn't show you is that right in the middle of these hemoglobin molecules should be an iron atom, right? So iron sits inside of hemoglobin. And what's really interesting about iron binding to hemoglobin is without iron, oxygen cannot bind to our little white hemoglobin molecules, right? So if you are depleted of iron or you have very, very low iron, oxygen isn't going to be able to bind to hemoglobin, and it's not going to be able to carry that oxygen to our muscles, right? That's going to have detrimental effects in a marathon, right? We want to deliver oxygen to our bodies as efficiently as possible. And if we can't deliver that oxygen, we're going to be fatigued much, much quicker than we normally would, okay? Now that was a really, really quick review of what oxygen and hemoglobin does. I found this YouTube video, and let me see if the Zoom thing is going to go away. Yeah, here we go. I found this short 1-minute video on YouTube that you can look up, red blood cells and oxygen, and LSG Science is the user, right? If you want to see another review of how this kind of stuff works, I encourage you to go and take a look at that, right? But there are 2 quick papers that I wanted to show you. This first one by Jamie Burr, Dr. Jamie Burr out of the University of Guelph in Canada, and then another paper here that you can take a look at by Jean-René Lecour, at the University of South Lyon School of Medicine, okay? Both of these are talking about iron deficiencies in endurance athletes. Now, one thing that I want to point out to you in particular has to do with iron deficiencies being extremely prevalent, especially in female athletes. Now, a lot of this has to do with reproductive cycles in women, right? So if you can imagine if there's any blood loss that might occur during the reproductive cycle, without that blood, without the iron, without the hemoglobin and the ability to carry that oxygen, it might be a little bit more common to see these iron deficiencies. And that's exactly what happens. About 20 to 50% of these female athletes that were sampled for this study compared to 0 to 17% of males, right? So nearly 30% as much of that of an increase in this iron deficiency being present in females, right? So it's important to keep an eye on this, right? One thing that we can tell you is that, before you start any type of, iron supplementation, it's always, always, always good to check with a physician, all right? Generally, after you start seeing signs of fatigue or chills that someone might get or general dizziness, these are all signs of anemia being present or this iron deficiency. You should consult a doctor, maybe get a blood test to confirm that you are iron deficient, and then you can start supplementing with iron. right? Most multivitamins you can get kind of over the counter also have iron. Take a look at that. That's definitely someplace you can at least start if you're concerned about an iron deficiency. But if you're going to go any further, you should definitely consult a physician. Other options include liquid iron, and this is a little bit more dangerous only because it can hurt your teeth. And the way that you would generally take liquid iron is with something else, usually with something very acidic like orange juice, and you'd use a straw to avoid contact with your teeth. But it's a really great way to deliver iron to the body if you need it beyond normal supplementation with just your diet, right? Okay, so keep an eye out for this. Again, consult your physician if you have to, and take a look at these papers here to give you a good idea of, what an iron deficiency is and why it's prevalent in athletes. Okay. Now, the last thing that I want to talk to you before we conclude here is diet. And this was the picture that I was showing a little bit earlier. This is what I eat in a single day, right? It looks like a ton, right? But generally, what I want to talk about with diet, especially with kind of endurance athletes, is how to actually approach what you're eating. Now, one thing that I can say before I even begin here is that everyone is going to be very, very different. If you're concerned about, making sure that you're getting enough calories or you're getting the right content of food, you can consult a nutritionist or even your local physician, whoever that is, and they'll give you a really good idea of what might be good to really be focusing on, right? Generally, though, some key principles that every athlete generally can follow is that we're looking for a diet that's high in protein and generally pretty high in carbohydrates. The protein is going to be really important for rebuilding muscles. The carbohydrates are for quick energy and energy storage, so our body's able to access that quick energy and call on it during exercise. And then generally lean and low in fat. Relatively, you don't have to cut out, having dessert, especially after a really, really long day. And I'll show you again what I might eat in a day and take you through my schedule. But the other really big thing, obviously, is these leafy greens. This is to support, iron or prevent iron depletion and support iron growth in our bodies, right? We want to make sure we have iron to be able to deliver that oxygen, right? But let me take you through kind of what I might eat in a day. I'll show you generally like my schedule, just to give you an idea of what it might take to make sure that you're getting enough calories and going about fueling your body for these runs. I think that's a great way to look at this. It's not food, it's not calories, it's fuel. It's how our bodies are going to be able to perform at the maximum that it possibly can, right? I usually start my day around 6 in the morning, which is pretty early, at least for me. I'm not a morning person, but sometimes you have to do it. And before my first session of the day, I'll usually have like a toasted bagel, throw some butter on there, and have like a very small iced coffee, just like 2 or 3 mouthfuls. Fun fact about coffee, obviously you might know this if you're a coffee drinker, it's a diuretic, right? And what that means is it might cause you to go to the bathroom. So you want to be careful having a ton of coffee before going for your run, obviously. But this is good for me to help myself wake up, especially for these early mornings. So after that little pre-run kind of meal, I'll go for my easy 10-mile run. And then after that run, I'll come back, and within an hour, I generally like to have that meal, that first meal, just to, again, promote rebuilding of those muscles, getting immediate protein and carbohydrates. So I have like a protein shake that usually has some peanut butter and a banana and some milk in it. And then I usually have 3 to 4 eggs, and I might have 2 full eggs and 2 egg whites, and then have it over some rice, which is, again, good carbohydrates, quick energy for my body to start rebuilding, and then a banana as well, just to have some fruit with it. I'll go to work at this point, and throughout the day while I'm doing my research at the lab, I'll snack on some carrots and pretzels and have a little bit of coffee just to keep my day going, especially if it's a long one. Lunch is usually around like 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and I'll usually have some kind of a soup or sandwich. I like Campbell's soup. They have like the heart healthy kind of request thing. I forget what it's called, but very delicious soup. I usually have some kind of a salad. And again, getting those leafy greens somewhere in your day is really, really great. A chewy bar and usually some kind of fruit, an apple and a banana as well. Right around I guess 5 or 6 o'clock before an evening recitation. If I'm teaching that night, I'll do an easy 5-mile run. And around 7 p.m., I'll usually have my dinner. And that could be like a chicken breast. And I love Brussels sprouts. I bake them in the oven, 400 degrees for 30 minutes, get a nice crispy Brussels sprouts, super, super delicious. I have plenty of pasta with my chicken. And then as dessert, usually I like to have a bowl of cereal. That's kind of my guilty pleasure. I'm a big fan of ice cream as well. You shouldn't shy away from any dessert as well, especially if you've had a long day, right? But again, just to give you an idea of what you eat during the day, this is just overall what I'm looking for is something that is balanced and wholesome. I don't want to feel hungry during the day because that's definitely going to, hinder my ability to go for any types of runs. I don't want to be fatigued or hungry going into any of my runs. But again, balanced, healthy, focused on leafy greens and protein and carbs to, fuel your body throughout the training, okay? So again, just to recap, we talked about the importance of sleep, getting 8 to 10 hours and limiting our phone use right before going to sleep, the importance of iron and its role in the delivery of oxygen to our blood. You might want to consult a physician if you're concerned that you might have an iron deficiency, especially for female athletes. I think that's really, really important to keep focused on that. And then we also talked about our diet, having a high protein and carb, relatively low in fat, just to make sure that our bodies are fueled and ready to go for all of our runs, all right? If you have any questions, again, you're more than welcome to send me an email. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.